I'm making my own 3D game engine from scratch, and I'm planning to release it very soon. It's been a while since the last Game Engine Devlog, but I have a lot of cool things to show you today. And keep in mind that this is a one-man project, and it's still in closed alpha development. To make sure that this will not be just another bad game engine in the marketing, my goal for the first public release will be creating a stable and feature-complete engine. In other words, most of the new features you will see until that release will likely to not be eye-catching or completely new and innovating, because I first need to add what every developer needs in order to make a game, and then I will be able to implement new cool things. And trust me, I have a lot of cool things in mind for this. So let's jump to the engine and see what I've been working on. Alright, when you open the engine, the first thing you see is the project manager, which is of course a list of all your projects, the version of the game engine that you were using when you created the project, and the last date that you played around with that project. You can create a new project. There is a new create button here in the bottom right, and this create new project is a little bit empty right now, but it's important to talk a little bit about it because I want to provide some entry points to the user. So when you create a new project, you will be able to select if you want to have a lot of stuff already made for you, and very repetitive stuff like menus, pause menus, or configurations. Stuff that almost every game will have, regardless of the type of game that you're talking about. And of course, I want to add some templates for first person, third person, top down, and so on. So I will add that later here once I get it working. Before creating a new project and having some fun, I'd like to show you a little bit of the projects that I've been working on. The first one is this FPS mouse look. It's a project created by Half on my Discord server, and by the way, if you're not in my Discord server, please consider joining it because there's a lot of cool people out there, and this engine is not available for everyone because I haven't released the public version of it yet, but it's already available for my Discord members. So if you're not on the Discord, please consider joining to have access to the game engine and test it, suggest new things, and of course help the game engine to grow and reach more people. So I will leave the link in the description and make sure you check that. So this is a very cool scene that Half created on the Discord. There is a character here, a badass character. I don't think it's animated, but animation is supported. So if you go ahead in the properties tab here, you can see that. And by the way, this is a entity component game engine. So everything you see in the scene is an entity. So there's a lot of folders here to manipulate stuff, like the player folder, and you have the camera, and you have a gun. That is probably this object right here, and a lot of other stuff here. Everything is an entity, and if you select the entity, you can see that you have some properties like the components. Of course, you have a transform and everything here, and it supports armatures and animations. It just don't have, let me try to figure out, no, there's no animations here, but it's a very cool and simple scene that you can adjust and create everything that you want. So very cool project. I don't think the logic is working right now, but there's a logic here. So if I go to the Python scripts, yes, there is a lot of Python scripts here. I can open the script in the text editor, and the engine is basically scriptable using Python, which is a very, very, very easy to learn language. That's why I selected it. I chose it. So I don't think it's working because Half made this project in a previous version of the engine. Let's figure out if it's working. But if it's not, you know why. So yes, the mouse look is working. And by the way, right now you can play the game directly in the editor, just like every other game engine, I guess, because this is a very important feature to have. Oh, it's kind of working. You can see that the physics are not working. The character is very slow, but the mouse look and so on is working, so that's good. And this is a new feature that I added, the ability to play the game inside the editor itself, because in the previous version you had to launch an entire new application to test your project, and I found out that that may not be a cool thing, because sometimes you want to debug stuff, you want to figure out what's going on, so it's better to have this in-game. Another stuff that I added is the console here. So right now, previously you had to look everything in this Python console, in this like CMD console here. I'm planning to remove this completely because it's annoying, and I added a new console in-game, inside the editor, I'm sorry. So there's a Python error. As I said, this was a previous version. So here's the error, and you can see everything right here. And you can clear the console, limit the message that you have as input, and you can see as well that you have 2 Python error message. Probably if I play it, if I hit play again, I get another one. Not sure, yes. Not another message here. So I'm working on the console because it's very useful to have what is going on inside the engine itself, so you don't have to go ahead and try another thing. So this is a very cool project. Thanks, Half. I can't wait to see what else you can do, because I think, well, this is a very interesting and minimalistic project. Oh, and by the way, when you hit close to close the engine, it prompts asking if you want to save the project before quitting. That may save your life if you accidentally hit close. So I'm here with a brand new project, and there's no textures on this project, but I'm gonna add some textures right now. And following some suggestions on my Discord, I also added a more import assets option, because previously the only way to import an asset was to drag and drop it to the editor, but some people just prefer to import using this window or operational system dependent stuff, and I minimized the engine by accident, I'm sorry, but it's just better to have this as an option as well. Of course, you still can drag and drop your assets to the editor. They're gonna work just fine. Alright, so we just saw a small speed build of me restoring some textures, and just to give you some context, the reason why when I opened this project there was no textures is that because this project especially was made in a previous Unity Engine version, and since I'm working on it and this is my personal project, I didn't bother to keep the compatibility, so that's why everything braked apart when I opened it in a new version. So this is a small time lapse of me building everything again, and this is super cool because those assets were downloaded from, I think, itch.io, and take a look at that. This is so cool. So they are voxel assets, and you can see the environment, some trees, and also have the player. Take a look at that. That's amazing. And by the way, now is a great time to show you the animation stuff, because you can select if you want the idle or the run animation. There's a bug in the animation. If you see here, there's a vertex out of the position, but this is a Mixamo bug. So I had the same bug when I was adding the animations in Mixamo. So don't worry about that. So I have the idle, the combat idle, I have the walk animation, take a look at that, I have the robot falling for the jump. And by the way, I can edit these animations now and change the frame start, the frame end. I can even change the speed. Take a look at that, that's amazing. Very slow speed and now a fast speed. That's good. Oops, that's too fast. I have this go back option right now that I can click here to go back to the previous assets that I was editing, because I found it very annoying that everything is in the properties tab. So if you select other stuff, for example, I'm editing the player right now that you can see here in the bottom, in the top left. But if I select, for example, to edit the material, I click here to edit the material, now I have to manually go ahead and select my player in many other game engines. But here, no, it's not. It's like a browser, so you can press here to go back to the previous assets you were editing. There's a play game, so let me press P to play the game. I was working on it. I did not finish it, so that's why I can't walk, I can't do anything else, because I stopped working in this project to literally keep developing the engine. But I'm planning to release this project as well as like a demo project, because take a look at that. It's so good. You can see stuff going on. Work with mouse look, there's a shadows. It's amazing. Another thing that is a feature here in the Unity engine is that, for example, for this huge building here, you don't want everything to be used to calculate physics. That's why you can have rigid body components here. I have 2 rigid body components, and yes, you can repeat you can have any number of components in this of the same type you want in the entity, and those rigid body components were basically box collisions. And if I enable here the debug physics preview, you can see that the mesh it's actually being used to handle the collisions are just 2 very low poly boxes, and it's the same for those other objects. So it's a small optimization that in a project makes a huge difference. So it's great to have this as an option. And talking about the transform and so on, if you are following the development of this engine, you may also see that the transform component is very different, and actually the user interface is very different from the previous video. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, consider taking a look of the previous video, the previous devlog, because you will see a very, very, very huge difference in the editor, in the way that everything looks like. I'm working to get it more pleasant to see and more flat designed. That's why you can see that the colors are much more organized. The icons here are now in the left side, and you can also see that I added this X, Y, and Z colors and names and prefixes in the values. This is good because it's going to help you to figure out what axis are you talking about. For example, the x-axis is always the red one. So if you see here, I'm moving the x-axis and it's red. The y-axis is always the green. And I changed that because many other game engines or softwares used to be X is red, Y is green, and Z is blue, but I changed the Y and the Z because Y is the up position. So if you move something in the Y direction, you're also moving into the up position. And for me, it makes a lot of sense to make the up position being blue. Why? Because the sky is blue. Take a look at that. So it's easy to remember, just a very simple stuff. I also added some suffixes, so you can see here in the position that I have an M after the number itself, because it's in meters. So you see an M to reference meters. And I also have the degree sign here in the rotation. So if I rotate an object, let me rotate it real quick, it's in degree. Take a look at that. So very simple to figure out. I also have for example, in the settings, in the resolution, I have the Y and X and Y, and it's in pixels. So, and by the way, you can change that to a very low resolution. And that's amazing because if you resize, you can see that the entire game gets pixelated. Isn't that good? Let me reduce it even more. Here we go. Now I have a pixel art 3D game. Take a look at that. Very simple to make this kind of stuff. And yes, it's simple. I forgot the previous resolution. I think it's this. Here we go. And by the way, I've been organizing this settings tab, so it's a little bit more, it's a little bit easier. You can select the startup scene. You can also save and run the player as a standalone, or export the game for Windows, because yes, previously it was not possible to export the game. That's fun, but yes, that's true. It was not possible to export. Now it is possible to export for Windows 64 bits. Another thing that I haven't changed yet, but it's planned to be a thing in the original release, is that I'm planning to improve the asset browser right now here, because it's a little bit limited. You can see the preview of the of your meshes and everything. If you go to the material tab, there's no preview yet of the materials, so I'm planning to add a preview of that. I'm planning to add a preview of basically everything, because right now there's no previews in most of this stuff, only the textures, and I think the meshes have a preview, which is very good and easy to figure out. But yes, I'm working on that. And last but not least, I've been changing a lot of stuff in the way you add objects and so on. For example, let's say that I want to add a new component in this vegetation. Now there's an icon here. Let me remove my face cam real quick. There's an icon here in the bottom right to create a new component. So if you click, there's this new menu here, which is much more organized. But by the way, you can just right click here to add a new component. Much easier right now, and you have a lot of stuff. Let me add a light here. Now this object is also a light. Take a look at that. So good and so easy to add new components. And I have others, user interface, and so on. And it's the same here in the scene graph. So if I right click, I can create a new entity. By the way, I can do the same using Shift A. It's a shortcut in the viewport to create a new entity. And if I use Shift A to create a new entity inside the viewport, it will create in the position that my mouse was at. So here's a new cube that I just added in the viewport. Let me delete it and let me add some UI elements, because I'm very excited to figure out, to show you what I have new. First of all, let me just confirm that I do have everything here. Yes, I do. So let me right click here in the scene graph and create interface, some interface stuff. And I'll create a new UI element first. Oops, my bad. Since this is a new version of the engine, that previous project was not supporting the new user interface. So I will jump to another project. There is nothing related to that one. So it's a simple project. Even have a new UI element right here. Let me delete it and let me create a new one. And that project will gonna happen. Oops, you're not seeing my screen, of course. So let me right click here again and select and add a new UI element. And if you see right now, I do have, a user interface element here with a component. And yes, to add interfaces to your project, everything you need to do is add a component to an object, an entity. And I can change the style of that to anything I want. Can make it a little bit alpha, and I can even blur the background, which is super cool and handy. Another thing that I added is some manipulators here. So if you see, I can click here and drag to change my user interface. That is a small bug right now that when I do it, it selects the objects behind it. It's a little bit annoying. Oops, it's work in progress again, but I'm fixing it slowly, okay? Oops, there's something definitely not working with this. But it's still work in progress, but this is the new user interface. So you can select these manipulators. There's some values in percentage here, so you can see, and if I unlock it, I can manually place the pixel size of that UI element, which is very interesting. And I can even add some text here. I need to select a font. Here's my text. Let me increase the size a little bit and change to test. So here's how I add a user interface to a project. Again, there's still that weird bug that I don't know what's going on, but I will probably fix that very soon. But this is how you add user interface. And by the way, you can select UI style. You can add a texture on it. So let me try to open a texture. Let me go to import assets, and I'll import just this random texture here. It's here, and I'll drag and drop here, and you can see I have a texture. And it also messed it up with my text, but that's okay. Let me add a button here, and here we go. Now I have a button, and it works in almost the same way as the UI element. So the difference is now I have an UI element component that I can use to change the position, the scale, and so on. But I do have an UI button that will use this UI element component as a basis and will basically add some extra functionalities. For example, I can select a new style for when a button is hovered, and another one for when the button is pressed. And I also can add a Python script here when the user clicks in the button. So I'm not sure if it will gonna appear in the console, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna appear here. But when I press play game and click in the button, you can see here that it clicked. So I can click a lot of times and it's printing clicked a lot of times as well. So that's how the button will work, and just because I have this on button click. And by the way, that's a good time to show you that when the game is being executed, I can actually edit my stuff. I can literally duplicate this cube and add behaviors and enable again the view, the user interface, and do whatever I want, debug the numbers and so on. And when I hit stop, everything is back to normal. So this is what I've been working on in the game engine. So yeah, there's a lot more that I want to show you, but I will save that for future videos. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm still working on it to make sure that the game engine is completely reliable and you're not gonna crash or do any and miss any important features before the release. And as you saw in this video, I also need to fix the editor, the viewport, I'm sorry, the user interface inside the viewport, which is a very important feature to fix. But the game engine is coming along. I'm enjoying a lot the features, and it's getting feature complete, which is awesome. And very soon I think you'll be able to see this game actually working, because it's not working at the moment. You can see that I can't walk or do anything else, but I'm pretty excited to see what is gonna happen in the future. So that's it for this video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel to not lose any feature updates. And if you wanna test the engine, I will be glad to send you a link on my Discord. So make sure you join the Discord server. The link is in the description. My name is Guilherme, and I see you in the next video.